These companies can't afford the energy price. The German economy, as will ours, will slow to a halt. See, Germany's folly is twofold. They've demonised coal and gas. I mean, Merkel once had a few brains. She went mad at the end and went green and swallowed all this stuff, and now Germany's in a mess. They've demonised coal and gas, but they've phased out nuclear power by 2022. At least the coal-fired plants are still there, and now the environmental movement in Germany has been stood on its head because the use of coal has now increased by almost 10%, and coal remains Germany's dominant power source. So what happens? Germany spent hundreds of billions of dollars on renewable energy. For what purpose? Its electricity prices are 3 times the global average. But Anthony Albanese was in Germany 2 weeks ago. What did he learn? Renewable energy provides no certainty. The old cliche about wind not blowing and the sun not shining, renewable energy is an uncertain resource. As I've said 1,000 times, the only sensible energy policy can be expressed in one sentence. Your energy must be available, reliable, and affordable. Claire Lehman is the founding editor. I cite these people because it's not just me saying this, of an online magazine, Quillette. Bowen wouldn't listen to her, or to me, or to Gottliebsen, but as she writes, our nation's backbone lies in mines and farms, just as Germany's has relied on manufacturing. And like manufacturing, both mining and agriculture rely on cheap and abundant energy to thrive and survive. Well, Germany's made a mess of things, demonised coal and wind back nuclear. Here in Australia, we demonise coal and gas, and we refuse to have anything to do with nuclear. As Claire Lehman tellingly points out, the end result for Germany is a German economic disaster, and as she says, rather than learn from Germany's mistakes, Australia appears intent on replicating them. As you know, I've said from day one, the energy policies of Labor and Bowen, aped, I might add, by Morrison and co, running off to Glasgow, these policies are a national economic suicide note. The talented federal MP Matt Canavan says it splendidly, and I quote, "Wind and solar are the dull bludgers of the energy market. They only show up for work some of the time." And he said, "We cannot run a modern industrial economy on energy sources that cannot provide power all the time." Unquote. Canavan is the hope of the side when he writes, "Modern coal power stations are clean. They produce almost zero smog and fewer carbon dioxide emissions. While coal-fired power," he writes, "won't get us to net zero emissions, that target," he said, "is ridiculously overreach in any case. While we should aim," he writes, "for nuclear over the long term, it'll take decades to develop that industry." Says Canavan, "It's time to drop the lies we've been telling about energy and focus on the facts." Says Matt Canavan, "We need answers now. We," he said, "are not going to change the temperature of the globe over the next few years, but we may bankrupt many Australians if we don't invest in the cheapest form of power." Unquote. Well, I suppose there's one benefit to all of this. Bowen's energy policy will mark the end of Bowen's political career, and that will benefit Australians, not as much as coal-fired power, but it will be a singular and welcome benefit.